Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be comparing a Tesla Model 3 long range to a Tesla Model 3 performance so that I can show you guys the difference between both the cars and help you pick out which one is the best to go with. Before we get into today's video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get right into the comparison. So starting things off, we're going to focus on the performance in terms of a lot of the interior and exterior shots because, well, they're both Model 3s and they both share pretty much everything from an equipment perspective. I will show some clips later on in the video with the long range so you guys can see the stylistic differences, which are very, very small. It's just a Tesla thing. Anyways, here's the frunk that you get with both Model 3s. So they're both just as practical from a storage space perspective on the front end. And then from a front end styling perspective, they both have that Model 3 look. Tesla doesn't do anything too crazy from a stylistic perspective with their different packages. They make that so that all of the cars basically look the same. Then you guys can see the fog lights down below, and then notice how the front end completely closed off for aerodynamic efficiency. You do have parking sensors there on the front end, and I always like it when I see a Tesla in a color other than like white because it seems like every single Tesla out there is always finished in white. It's like the Tesla thing to do. And another thing that I do want to mention is at the end of the video, I'll be going over the horsepower and torque with both the car's range, charge capacity, all that kind of stuff, so that you guys have all the facts. Anyways, notice here with the performance wheels, they are mostly on the aerodynamic side of things in terms of the shape and then how much they cover up, but notice just how large the openings are. And then you got the brakes that come with the performance as well. Definitely think it's cool with the red calipers. It definitely, you know, just gives it a sportier appearance. And then you guys can see here with the camera there on the side. And then notice there with the door handles, how they're flush with the bodywork again to help out with aerodynamic efficiency. And overall, I think the Model 3 looks good. Definitely looks a lot better than the Model Y, which is obviously built off the same platform. And from a trunk storage space perspective, super practical. That's something that I really like about Teslas is they just have a ton of storage space throughout. And because everything's located in the center of the car, you've got a big storage space underneath, whereas most other cars will have something in there typically taking up the space. So again, they definitely get a lot of practicality out of Teslas, but that's just electric cars in general. And notice here with the little low profile spoiler, but there's not a lot to signify that this is the performance other than that little spoiler and then the red brake calipers, and then yeah, that's it, because they both have the dual motor badge, as you guys will see later in the video. And so when you're driving down the road, people are just going to see that you're driving a Model 3. They're not going to know that you have the performance or that you have the long range, unless they're a mega Tesla nerd, then I guess then they'll know. Anyways, from an interior perspective, this is something else that kind of shocked me, is that the interior is the same. They don't really do anything extra for this performance package. It seems like Tesla just makes all the interiors just uniform, which, I mean, I guess makes sense to make it so production's a little bit easier. I do like the white interior with Teslas. Of course, I'd be worried about like staining it with like pants and I don't know, drinks and stuff like that, but it looks really good. It's my favorite interior with Teslas, that's for sure. It's definitely bright. As you guys can see, the camera filter just absolutely freaks out. But Tesla seats are also pretty comfortable. That's another thing, is they're not necessarily the coolest looking, but they're definitely comfortable. And then same thing here with the front door panel, you guys can see with the material use. And then Tesla does like a minimalist design, so there's not a lot of controls all over. They basically just do the least amount possible from a control perspective to go with that overall theme. And then notice there with the power adjustments on the side. And then you can see with the pedal layout, the pedals definitely look pretty nice. And then notice with, again, the dash just bright white in your face, that's for sure. And popping in, you've got the little key card thing. That's something that is always frustrating me with Teslas. I just want a regular, like they do give you a key fob with the cars, but yeah, I just want like a regular key fob, just keep it simple, right? Anyways, here's the steering wheel. Again, minimalist from a design perspective. It's not necessarily the nicest from a material perspective, but I mean, it gets the job done. Got the column shifter again to free up space, right? And then you have those little dials that control different functions depending on what you have them set to do in the infotainment system. And so again, they're kind of like doubling down with everything. And then, yeah, nothing there in the center, right? Everything's here in the infotainment system, which has definitely bugged me about the Model 3 and the Model Y, frankly, is that you have to look at the infotainment system just to see what speed you're going, for example. I get it that you get used to it, but I've driven a ton of Model 3s and Model Ys at this point, and it makes me nauseous, frankly, having to like look to the side to see how fast I'm going. It'd be better if they just did center gauge cluster like what the Plaids have. So I definitely think that was a mistake on Tesla's part from a design perspective. But you guys can see here with the screen, this is something that, again, is going to be identical with both of the cars, all the different customization here. Now, they are going to have slightly different drive modes as well, what you guys will notice here in a moment. I love how even the glove box, you got to do the screen for it. That'd frustrate me so much if I owned the car. But you guys can see you got like the chill, and then you have like the sport mode here with the Model 3 Performance. And I didn't really, I think I showed it in the clip for the long range, but the long range just has like a normal mode. It doesn't have like a specific sport mode, so it's like chill or normal, so that kind of a little bit of a difference from a drive mode perspective. But overall, the infotainment system I think is great. It's really easy to use. It's super responsive, but again, it contains everything within the car. And again, you'll notice here tons of storage space with the car, and so it adds to the practicality quite a bit. Center console, pretty normal. Again, more storage space, so you guys will notice there's just storage everywhere all throughout the car. And again, that white trim, like, it doesn't pick up very well on camera, but it just kind of like a little bit blinding. And then you got the glass roof situation with the Model 3, which has always been interesting because, again, double glass roof, definitely unique, that is for sure. But anyways, going from the performance to the long range, again, to the untrained eye, it is the same car. Like, it looks identical from a front end perspective. It's got all the same style cues and everything as you have on the Performance. But again, I do think that the Model 3 with the proportions and everything, I think that it looks pretty solid. But what you'll also notice here is with the car finished in white, again, it kind of has that like basic Tesla look, but again, you can get whatever color you want. Well, there's not a ton of color options with Tesla, but you can get basically whatever color you want with the long range. Notice the wheels a lot more closed off, again, for aerodynamic efficiency, so they don't look as cool, but they're definitely more practical in terms of getting more range out of the car. And something else is the tires actually are more narrow, I'm pretty sure, with the, if I remember right, these are slightly more narrow. It has like, they're not quite Prius tires, but they're pretty dang close, so if you have skinnier tires, then that's also going to help out with your range as well. And then same aerodynamic design with the side and the door handles and all that. But again, the only difference here in the rear is that you don't have that spoiler there. It says dual motor, so again, you on the outside you can't tell that this is, well, I mean, you could see the wheels and then the lack of red brake calipers, but there's not a lot to tell. Anyways, look at the interior. Again, same material use, so you don't really get any like upgrades with the performance from an interior perspective, which again surprises me. Got the cool double glass roof design again, so all that is the same. And then you notice here with the door panel, the difference is you got this wood trim, which I've never been a fan of with the Teslas. I think they should just do like carbon fiber print or something, because it just looks out of place. It's like you have this futuristic design and then wood trim, which is kind of like an old school thing to do in cars, right? So I think it's kind of weird. But again, same functionality here with the whole car with the infotainment system and everything. You guys can see response time just as good. I think it's weird you can direct the airflow with the screen rather than like doing vent adjustments. But yeah, you can see the rest of the interior here. And right before we go over the performance specs, here's acceleration. So this is the long range first, so you guys can see the acceleration. Just go back and play that clip if you want to see kind of like how quick that gets up to speed. And then here is the performance from an acceleration perspective, so you guys can just quickly see the difference with the roughly 0 to 60 time. Now, quickly going over the specs with both of the cars. So for the performance, we have a 340 kilowatt battery, and we have a total system output of 450 horsepower, 471 pound-feet of torque, charging capacity 11.5 kilowatts, and then in terms of the range, 315 miles range. Again, that is for the performance. Now, if we go to the long range, 258 kilowatt battery, 346 horsepower, 389 pound-feet of torque. Charging capacity is the same, 11.5 kilowatts, and in terms of the range, 358 miles of range. So to cap off this review with what those specs mean. Basically, the performance, it's in the name, is going to have a quicker 0 to 60 time, but you don't get as much range as you get with the long range. And then the other thing that's interesting is the charging capacity is the same between both the cars, but the battery with the performance is quite a bit larger compared to the long range. Charging time, again, is the same. So what that means is that you'll get more range with the long range and a faster charging time to get it all the way charged compared to the performance, because again, with the performance, bigger battery pack. And so with all that taken into consideration, I understand why more people get the long range over the performance. Again, if you guys saw what the acceleration's there, yes, the performance is quicker, but it's not like a crazy amount quicker. It's just barely quicker is what it looks like on screen. And in terms of what you can perceive, they both feel pretty similar. Again, the performance does feel a little bit quicker. So what I would do is I would frankly go for the long range. It's just a better value, and it's gonna be more practical from a day-to-day use, being able to charge it up a little bit quicker and having a bit more range. And like I said, it's more than enough power from an acceleration perspective. Let me know which one you guys would choose.